Someone doesn't respond to your message. A group keeps talking after you say something, like the sentence never existed. Someone walks past you like you're furniture in the room, and then it hits, not as a thought, as a sensation. Your chest tightens a little. Something warm rises in your throat. There's a strange pressure behind your eyes, like your body is bracing for something. You tell yourself it's nothing. You tell yourself you're overreacting. You tell yourself you shouldn't care. But your body already filed the moment under danger, because to your brain, being ignored and being physically hurt activate the same alarm system. That is not a metaphor. That is neuroscience. And understanding why that happens might be one of the most relieving things you ever hear about yourself. A few decades ago, researchers began asking a strange question. Why does social rejection hurt so much? Why does something as simple as being excluded from a conversation or ignored in a group leave such a deep emotional impact? In 2003, a neuroscientist named Naomi Eisenberger designed an experiment that changed how psychologists understand rejection. Participants were placed inside an fMRI scanner and asked to play a simple virtual game called Cyberball. On the screen, 3 players tossed a ball back and forth. At first, everything felt normal. The ball moved between the players evenly. Everyone was included, but halfway through the game, something changed. The other 2 players suddenly stopped passing the ball to the participant. They continued throwing it back and forth to each other, completely ignoring the third person. No explanation, no conflict, no insult, just quiet exclusion. While this was happening, the researchers watched the participants' brains in real time, and what they discovered was startling. The region of the brain that lit up during exclusion was the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for processing physical pain, the same region that activates when you burn your hand, the same region that reacts when you get injured. Being excluded activated the exact same neural system, not something similar, not something nearby, the same. Your brain processes social rejection as if it were a physical wound, which explains something many people have experienced but never fully understood. When someone ignores you, the reaction in your body feels immediate and physical. Your stomach tightens. Your breathing shifts. Your mind begins scanning the moment for meaning. Did I say something wrong? Did they misunderstand me? Did I annoy them somehow? And suddenly, the moment becomes much bigger than it originally seemed. This reaction is deeply connected to what psychologists call the fear of rejection psychology. Your brain evolved to treat belonging as essential for survival. For most of human history, being excluded from your group was not just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. If you lived in a small tribe thousands of years ago, separation from the group could mean losing access to food, shelter, and protection. Being alone meant vulnerability, so the human brain developed an early warning system. If something threatens your social belonging, treat it like a survival threat. The nervous system does not distinguish between ancient environments and modern ones. It does not know that you live in an apartment with a refrigerator and a phone. It only knows the signal. You were excluded, and exclusion once meant death. So the alarm fires. That tight feeling in your chest is not weakness. It is your amygdala doing exactly what it was designed to do. The amygdala scans the environment for threats. When it detects a social signal that suggests disconnection, it activates the same protective response that would occur during physical danger. This is one of the reasons social anxiety explained through neuroscience often surprises people. Many assume social anxiety is simply excessive worrying or insecurity, but the truth is more biological than that. Your brain is reacting to social signals as if they carry real consequences for your survival, and in evolutionary terms, they once did. This is also why people often replay moments of rejection in their minds long after they happen. Your brain is trying to analyze the threat. It wants to understand what happened so it can prevent it in the future. The nervous system is searching for patterns. What did I do? What could I change? How do I avoid that situation again? But there is another layer to this story that most people don't realize. In 2010, psychologist C. Nathan DeWall conducted a fascinating study. He wanted to know if reducing physical pain could also reduce emotional pain. Participants were divided into two groups. One group took acetaminophen, a common pain reliever like Tylenol, every day for 3 weeks. The other group took a placebo. After several weeks, the participants reported their levels of social pain, including feelings of rejection or exclusion. The results were unexpected. The group taking the pain reliever reported significantly lower emotional pain from social rejection. A medication designed for physical pain reduced emotional pain from being ignored. This finding reinforced what neuroscientists were already beginning to understand. The brain does not have completely separate systems for physical pain and social pain. They overlap, which means the hurt you feel when someone excludes you is not imaginary. It is not an overreaction. Your brain is responding to a signal it evolved to take very seriously. And this realization leads to an important shift in how we interpret those feelings. Many people believe that feeling hurt by rejection means they are too sensitive. They believe they should be stronger, less affected, more detached. But neuroscience suggests something very different. The people who feel social pain most strongly are often the people whose nervous systems are deeply attuned to connection. Your brain is wired to care about belonging. It is wired to detect shifts in social environments. This is not a malfunction. It is a feature of a brain built for relationships. Sensitivity to rejection does not mean weakness. It means your attachment system is active, but there is a critical distinction that changes how this experience affects your life. Feeling social pain is natural. Allowing that pain to define your worth is not. Being ignored does not mean you are ignorable. It means someone failed to notice you. Those are not the same thing. Your nervous system might interpret the moment as a threat, but interpretation is not reality. This is where the real shift begins. You cannot remove thousands of years of evolutionary wiring. Your brain will continue to register social signals. It will still react when something feels like rejection, but you can change what happens after the alarm goes off. Psychologists often describe 3 practices that help regulate this response. The first is something called affect labeling. Instead of telling yourself that you are overreacting, you name the mechanism. You might say to yourself, My brain just registered a social threat. Research shows that naming emotional states reduces activity in the amygdala and increases activity in the prefrontal cortex. In simple terms, understanding the emotion helps regulate it. The second shift is questioning the signal rather than questioning yourself. When the alarm goes off, the instinct is often to assume the worst about yourself, but the signal does not necessarily reflect reality. Sometimes people are distracted. Sometimes conversations move quickly. Sometimes silence has nothing to do with you. Your brain detected a possibility. That does not mean the threat is real. The third shift is allowing the feeling to exist without immediately suppressing it. Many people try to appear unaffected when they feel rejected. They pretend it didn't matter, but emotions do not disappear when ignored. They move deeper into the body. Acknowledging the feeling allows the nervous system to process it rather than carry it. Over time, these small shifts begin teaching the brain a new rule. Discomfort is not the same as danger. Disagreement is not the same as rejection. And silence is not always a verdict about your value. As this new pattern develops, something interesting begins to happen. Your reactions become calmer. Your thoughts become clearer. The same situations that once triggered intense self-doubt begin to feel more manageable, not because you stopped caring about connection, but because you stopped interpreting every signal as a personal threat. Real confidence does not come from eliminating sensitivity. It comes from understanding it, from recognizing that the nervous system you have is ancient, intelligent, and designed for connection. The pain you feel when you are ignored is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that you are human. Your brain was built to care about belonging, and that capacity for connection is not a flaw. It is one of the most powerful parts of who you are.